Hey friends, welcome to Marcy in the Middle. On today's episode, I get to visit with a friend of mine, Christi Copeland, who many of you have also followed along with on her health journey this past year. Today, Christi is going to tell us how she's doing now and share a few things about what she's learned throughout the past year. Let's go. Welcome to the podcast, Christi.
It's good to be here.
Well, you are somewhat of a local celebrity these days after the crazy year you've had.
Oh, crazy.
Just a little bit. And we're happy to see you on the outside edge. And I thought it would be just nice for you to maybe get to share your story with people, because I know there are a lot of people who know bits and pieces, but you've had a long 48-year life so far.
Yes.
And I just want you to kind of share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll obviously work into your surgery and anything else you want to talk about. But I'm just going to pitch it to you.
Okay. Well, I should preface by saying, I'm kind of animated and I talk with my hands and all that. I apologize for that up front, but I mean, I'm ADHD, I have PTSD, a little bit of OCD, and I'm completely BCC. So, I mean, it's
all welcome. We would expect nothing less.
So if I start here and end up in Kansas, you'll know what's going on. But I was born here. I was raised here. I was raised up in First Baptist Church from a small child with my whole family, my mom and my dad, my grandmother, my granddad, my great-grandmother, my whole family. And we grew up in church. I said that. We covered that. But I remember, our family is pretty close, and things were not 100% as they were when I was an adult, when I was a kid. And so some of it was a struggle, but, while I was in church, it was good. And anytime I was not in church, I could tell. Well, I tell you that to tell you this, that translated all the way through my adult life. So, graduate and go to college. I didn't finish college, but I was there for 2 years. And, when you try to be real good in high school and then you get to college where there's no eyes on you, things fall apart.
They sometimes do.
Yes, they do. And so, then it was the battle to come back to me, to find me and my walk and whatnot. And then, I come back home after that, and I worked, and I lived with my parents, and then for a little while I lived with my aunt, and just kind of rocked on working. And when I get somewhere, I stay there.
Yeah.
And so, I've got like 5 jobs on my resume. But there was one point that I was working 5 jobs at one time.
Yeah.
And I remember working with the nursery, and that's working with little Sydney. I remember that. And anyway, but see, my train derailed. I completely lost my
It's all good. It's all good. Multiple
jobs, yes. Okay. And so then fast forward, I'm lonesome. Everybody around me's getting married, and all of this. And so, I'm really wanting to start that part of my life. And all I did was work and, go home and sit with my dad. And, my mom and dad were divorced at this point. And so it was just me and my dad. I should digress. My dad, when I was in high school, was like my best friend.
Uh-huh.
And so much so that I lied to him and told him that there was a daddy-daughter dance at the prom so that he would dress up and come to the prom.
So did he go?
He did, and he didn't question it, not at all, never
Too
once.
funny.
And I always wish that I had told him that. And I never did, but like you said, he knows now. But so then anyway, but I'm staying with my dad. I'm living with my dad, and I'm thinking, why do I not have somebody? I want somebody special in my life and all this. And I was friends with Rachel Furham, and she introduced me to Ed.
Okay.
And we kind of started talking or whatever, and I just knew this was the man that God had made for me. And from the date we met right before my birthday, because I do remember saying, God gave me a boyfriend for my birthday.
Okay, tell everyone when your birthday is.
August 9th.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I should have said that. Yeah, August 9th. And so from the day we met, right around then to the day we married on December 8th, it was a whirlwind romance.
Quickie.
A very quick whirlwind romance. And anyway, so we, we're trying to learn each other and kind of grow together, but it just, we wanted to have kids and, whatever. Well, it took me 10 years to get pregnant. I remember telling Ed, look, if I'm not pregnant by the time I'm 35, we're not trying anymore.
Yeah.
And the day before my 35th birthday, I found out I was pregnant.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm
Wow.
serious. God has a sense of humor, because
He
by then
does?
I was completely anti-child.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
I was
you're
like-
just, that's a whole
Yeah.
thing.
I got so sick of hearing you're of advanced maternal age that I was
Yes.
ready to smack somebody.
Yeah, geriatric pregnancy.
Yes.
That's always makes a woman
Yes.
feel good.
And I'm like, come on. But anyway, and we prayed for him, and he was wonderful, and he is wonderful, and all of that. But Ed's health kind of took a turn, and things started getting not great. And we didn't have the greatest marriage. I mean, I'll be quite honest, and I'm not going to badmouth him, because we get along better
Oh, yeah,
now
sure.
than we ever did
Yeah.
while we were married. But it just was not the
was just
greatest
hard.
of
Yeah.
marriage. Yes. And so as Ed's health deteriorated, our relationship kind of deteriorated a little bit too. And then it got down to where, he had to have his leg amputated. And so we went through this whole ordeal. First it was the foot, and we're just going to remove toes. And then it was this, and then it was that. And that was just a very intense time in our lives, because we're going through such stress, and it's hard. Ed is stubborn as a mule, and I don't mean that ugly. I really don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good trait.
it's a good trait to a point, but I mean, he's laying there in pain, and I cannot fathom the pain he was going through. I can't. But I'm trying to tell him the things that the nurses are trying to tell me, and I'm like, just breathe through it. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 1, 2, 3. And he finally said, "Stop telling me to breathe." I said, "Then lay there and hurt." And then I felt bad, and I'm like, it's too late. I'm exhausted. We've had no sleep,
Yes.
and it's just, that was a whole ordeal. And we come out of that, and, we had the house kind of sort of remodeled so that he could get in it. And we come through that, and we get home, and it just kept going sour.
Yeah.
And things were just, I can't explain how, because I don't want anybody thinking bad of Ed, but I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I packed up on November 8th, 2000, 3 years ago, and took me and Kel. I was making a pot of chili, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is it. And so I turned the chili off the stove. I packed our stuff, and we went to my sister's house. I walked in and said, "Can I live here?" And she said, "Okay."
Yeah.
So we moved in with her, and rocking on. Now, Dad lives directly across the street from Miranda. That's the house we grew up in.
Yes.
So Dad would toddle across the street. He had problems with his feet, and we had issues, and, he would toddle across the street, and we would visit and stuff, and Dad was just kind of a fixture in our lives. And, he'd come over and visit, and we'd see him a lot and all of this. Well, I'm going through the divorce thing and learning how to be myself again, and all of this, and everything's perfect, and not perfect. No, not perfect. But getting better.
Yes.
And then Dad had to have, I'm going to get it wrong. It was a bypass or something. He had to have heart surgery. So, we're thinking, okay, so he goes and he has his heart surgery, and we're thinking we're doing okay. He's not 100% great.
Right.
But he's better.
Yeah.
And so then, I don't remember the timeline because I'm horrible with timelines.
Yeah, well,
but we ended up back in Atoka, and I digress. He's in the hospital in Oklahoma City, and we noticed that on his right foot he's got a red spot on the tip of his toes, and he's got diabetic ulcers before, and so we're thinking, whatever, we'll just watch that. Well, by the time he gets to Atoka, it gets super red. We're like, "Have you guys noticed this?" We're like, "Okay," so they documented all this. And Dad was miserable, and I hate that I didn't go out there and visit him more, but it's all you can do, to see.
You're just trying to function.
And so it's hard to see him like that, because he's miserable, but you got to leave him there.
Yeah.
And so anyway, his foot kept getting worse and stuff, and then he just kind of declined and all this. And I remember Dr. Helton talking to me, and Miranda's like, he basically that he needed surgery, but he could not
live through it.
He can't. We can't do the surgery. We are not grasping that he's saying he wouldn't.
Right.
This is it. We're done. And so we're not grasping that. We're still thinking, okay, he may lose his leg.
It's just going to be a long battle.
And we're thinking, and Dad's house is so old that we're thinking he's not going to be able to get a wheelchair down his, we're thinking all of these things. Well, there's a reason I'm telling you this too, but, we're thinking all this stuff, and then, it came to the point where it's towards the end, and there was a nurse that told us, her name was Brandy, and I'm so appreciative for her because she just shot it straight. Girls, It's like,
Yeah.
thank you, because now
Yeah.
we know what we're facing. And then we were by his bedside when he left. But, it's hard to say goodbye to your daddy. It is. But he would have had such a miserable life had he lived. So it was a beautiful moment, but it was bittersweet.
Yeah, bittersweet.
So anyway, so Dad died on April 22nd, I believe. My divorce is final April 24th. This is in 2022. So Dad died April 22nd. My divorce was final April 24th. Then fast forward to, but if it hadn't been for my daddy passing away, I would not have had this surgery. So he helped save my life as well. And so then August 23rd is when Jada and my niece went with me. We went to Mexico to have the surgery.
Okay. And you went to have a stomach sleeve.
Yes,
like
I went to have the sleeve
for weight loss.
Yes, and we had done research. There were people around here that had done it, and everything was wonderful, and everybody's thriving, and all of this. And Jada thrived afterwards.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't remember. I keep telling people that I see her whirling out, but then I'm like, I don't remember if I saw them wheeling her out as I came in, or if I saw them wheeling her in as I was wheeling out. But we were back to back. I mean, quite literally, they're herding us through like cattle.
Okay.
So anyway, I mean, and she did great, and I, whatever. So I go, that was the 23rd. Now, I do not remember the timeline for nothing, but I know that we were supposed to stay one night in the hospital and then go to the halfway house, whatever you want to call it, and then come home. And I don't remember the timeline on it because I ended up back in the hospital or I was still in the hospital. I don't know because I didn't pass the leak test.
Okay.
I don't know what that is, but there was, you've seen x-rays, or whatever. They have a screen in front of you and they pass this thing in front of you. And I could see my stomach, which literally looked like that.
Really?
It's dangling. Yes. And so, that's the way it appears. Yeah. Okay. So, because they leave that in there.
Yeah.
And my stomach is that big.
Okay.
So I see it, but I don't know what they're seeing to see if I'm okay.
Right.
So anyway, all the girls, because they heard us through, we're all in this one area, and all the girls are in there eating popsicles, and everything's wonderful. I couldn't stomach it. I couldn't handle it. And I'm like, I so want to. I had a taste of the popsicle, and it was so wonderful.
Yes.
This woman had made these homemade ones, and I wanted to eat it so badly.
Of course, yeah.
And I could not. I couldn't swallow without pain. And so I'm like, something's not right.
Right.
Well, I ended up in the hospital longer than Jada. But I remember I did go to the halfway house because the lady had to help me shower. And she ended up, these are just caregivers. These are not nurses. She ended up having to take my stitches out because I couldn't, moving and stuff hurt so bad. And she's like, honey, we're going to have to take these out. It's like, okay. And she was real nice about it and everything, but I'm apprehensive because I'm like, you're not a nurse.
You're not a nurse.
So, but it was fine. And the one thing that they plugged was walk. So I'm pushing it. Yeah. I'm walking and walking. So, like I said, I'm pretty sure I ended up back at the hospital. Jada had to go on home. I had her birth certificate and all that stuff, and I'm still in the hospital. So somehow, by the grace of God, they end up with all that because I, at this point, am oblivious.
Yeah, you're kind of out of it.
Yeah. So I remember them taking me downstairs to do this leak test again, which I still don't know what that is. And so I see this with my stomach again, and there's this stuff here, and I see this little, it looks like a transparent, imagine a tapeworm.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, wow, there's something crawling in me. And they're like, nope, you're good. They shove it down and they shovel me out. They already had my bags and all of this. At this point, I'm not sure where I am, who I am, what we're doing.
And
but
you're
I know,
by yourself.
And I'm by myself. And they haul me up. And by the way, I should mention, I had COVID, and we did not know this.
Oh,
so they shovel me into this van.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm in there with other people that are leaving the center. And so we're going to the hospital. And I remember thinking, I'm going to throw up in this van.
Right.
And so, we get to the hospital and everything. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to stand up and walk to the airport. Right. So let's say the airport is here. We're, there's 2 lanes of traffic. Right. We're in the outside lane. Yeah. And I'm on this side of the van. And so they pull up and the man said, do you need a wheelchair? And I said, yes, I actually do. He helps me out of the van. He said, walk up there. They are right there by the door. He shuts the van door and leaves. And I'm still in the second lane of traffic trying to figure out, and it's hot.
How to cross the street.
The street. And you know how traffic is and when I'm in San Diego. So I get into the airport, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be fine. I've got the wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a whole lot, but it was by the grace of God I called my sister.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a whole lot of what she said, but she's like, Susie, you've got to call 911.
Mm-hmm.
You got to call 911. So evidently I did.
Yeah.
And she's freaking out because she's here.
Yeah.
I'm out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure my surroundings. I'm not sure of
nothing.
anything.
Yeah.
I do remember EMS coming, and because I'm sitting, and I remember EMS coming here and talking to them, and I don't know if they talked to my sister on the phone or what. I don't remember. And then I don't remember much.
Right.
I remember getting to the first hospital. I remember that much of the ride in the ambulance because I was on a huge yellow gurney.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird because I'm at an angle, and I'm like, well, apparently I was talking high, I was toxic, I didn't know it, all this stuff. So I don't remember a whole lot of that. And I remember going into an x-ray or something, and the EMS, it was a lady this time, was by me, and she said, honey, you're very sick. Now, I don't remember why she said that, but I remember her saying, but honey, you're very sick. Well, apparently I told my sister while I was at the airport, and I still feel guilty about this now, knowing this, and I shouldn't, I know, but apparently I told her, well, I guess I'll go to the hospital since that's where you think I should be. Well, she was right, 100% right, but I hate that I did that to her. So anyway, she's like, you're very sick or whatever. Still have no clue. God kept me blissfully oblivious of everything.
That's true.
So this is at the first hospital. This is Scripps Green, or Scripps Mercy. Scripps Mercy.
Okay.
And so stuff happens. We're moving you to another hospital. Okay.
To like a larger hospital that's more able?
It was the same hospital. But the doctor that saw me in the thing was at the other hospital. Okay, so they moved me there. We're not realizing I'm going to be here for, the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So, here we are. So I get moved to that one. And honestly, like I say, I don't remember a whole lot. I remember my sister, my uncle, and my aunt brought my sister and my son out to see me at Christmas. Now, bear in mind, all this went down in August.
Yeah.
So I'm out there, and I'm just like, I'm sinking, but I'm high.
Right.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
I had no clue. And so they came out and saw me, and it made me feel good, but I slept a lot. They had me so doped up.
Yeah, I'm sure on purpose for the pain.
Pretty much. And so they had me so doped up, and I just would sleep, and then I would feel bad and whatever. And so then they go home and all that, and then it's like, I remember asking a doctor or a nurse, do you think I'll be home by Thanksgiving? Do you think I'll be home by Halloween? She's like, yeah, probably. You'll probably be home by Halloween. Because I'm thinking, I don't want that burden on my sister trying to figure out what to dress my child up and all of that.
Yeah.
So, I was so not home by Halloween.
Right.
And then things just kind of kept going down, Anyway, after my sister and them left, I guess I was talking to her or something, I'm not sure. But then my aunt came out on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And she stayed doing everything. Now, bear in mind, this was, and I mean no offense to any of my other aunts, but this was the aunts I was closest to as a child.
Yeah.
And, the family member you're going to run away and live with because your parents are just so mean.
The cool aunt.
Well, that was Aunt Ree.
Right.
I'll just go live with Aunt Ree. So I mean, this was, we were close. And so she came out to stay with me, and I remember her coming in and just thinking, thank you, God.
Yes.
That she is here.
She's here.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It's like I felt like I didn't appreciate her enough right then because I was just out of it. And so, she came and she did help me through, and, there was that. And I remember at one point, because I had so many surgeries.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what the final surgery was. And then I had so many endoscopies and, different things and swallow tests. And oh my goodness, I had to drink. It was like dish soap, quite literally dish soap.
Yeah.
And so I had all of this going on. And every time I would do the drink test, I just would pray so hard, Father, please. And they would go, no. And I could see it when I do it. And you saw the tapeworm again. And then I knew, and I just remember, just don't fall apart. Don't fall apart. Don't let them see you fall apart.
Yeah.
Because you're better than that, Christy. Don't do that. Bull. Fall apart.
Yeah, fall apart.
Fall apart.
Sometimes it's warranted.
Yeah. And so I would get back to my room, and some of my nurses would chatter and talk, and they were wonderful. Some even prayed with me, and they were so great. But some would come in, and I realized they're busy.
Yeah.
And they would just do their thing. And, they were nice to me, but
I
would talk to a stump if it would respond.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, bye.
Yeah.
And so what do you do? And so there were times that I went, and while Ree was there, you guys know her as Lisa.
Yes.
Hardman.
Yeah.
But she's Ree to me, so
Yes.
that's Lisa. But while Ree was there in the beginning, it was great because she was in a hotel right across the street. She could come in. I had her.
Right.
But then that got so expensive. You just can't do it. But a pastor, I think he was a pastor and his wife. I'm so sorry if I don't remember. But a pastor and his wife offered for her to stay with them, which was wonderful, but she couldn't come every day.
Right.
And so, there I'd be not having anybody to talk to. And then there was times when she was there, we still didn't really talk. And then I felt bad about that, but I didn't know what to say because I had become so. I mean, I'm usually
you were literally, alive, and that's about it.
And that's it. I was in survival mode, which I'm just learning through my therapist. But I would just kind of sit there, and I remember at one point falling apart with a nurse. I was like, all I wanted to do. This was before we got there,
right?
And I remember falling apart with a nurse saying, I can't cry. I'm not supposed to cry. And she said, why? Who told you you're not supposed to cry? I was like, I had gotten off my phone with my sister or somebody, and I just fell apart. Fell apart. And I'm like, because I've always been
the one that didn't, the
strong one.
Yeah.
Or tried to be. I'm not the strongest by any means. And so I remember falling apart. She said, who told you that? Who told you that?
Yeah.
Well, I did, ma'am, and I'm the highest authority. So, and she just sat there and she's like, cry. Well, it wasn't the same as crying with my sister. It wasn't the same as crying with,
right.
anybody. And so then after Ree was there, I remember falling apart at one point because I'm like, I'm going to die in this hospital.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Yeah. And I remember her sitting with me, which I didn't admit that at that point.
Right.
But I remember her sitting with me and saying it's okay to cry. It's okay to let that go.
Yeah.
Let it go. And I sat there and cried with her, but I didn't want her to know that I was feeling negative. And I don't remember if I conveyed that to her or not.
Right.
But I remember her sitting there with me.
Yeah.
And so, and then there was at one point in time when the doctor was speaking to me and Ree was in the room and he said something and I just got withdrawn because I was like, that seals it. That's it. I'm going to die in this hospital.
done.
Because he was like, we have two options.
Yes.
Well, we had tried one of them. We had one more, and I was like, it's not going to. That's it. And Ree said, you're quiet. Tell me what you're thinking. I said, I'm going to die in this hospital. And Ree said, that's why, as she's talking to the doctor, she's like, that's why I didn't want you to say, whatever. And he's like, well, I'm going to go. I've done more harm than good. And I'm like, no, don't. Then I'm trying to feel bad about that. And I'm like, I need to know these things because I need to prepare to meet the Father. It's over. I need to prepare to start praying for my baby because it is so much different than me.
Sure.
And I do not mean this ugly. I don't.
No, yeah.
But I want Kale to be more like me because I'm a nut.
Yeah,
and plus I wanted to spill some of my craziness onto him so he would inherit a little bit of it.
We want him to be lively.
We want him to be lively.
And funny. But you can be what you want to be, Kale.
Yeah, you could be what you want to be, son. You just go, boy. But so anyway, I'm convinced or whatever. But then I do remember, and bear in mind, while I was out there, my cousin Lori came to see me, and I couldn't see her. They wouldn't let me see her because I had COVID, and she drove up from
Christi.
Rancho something, and so they, she's waiting there to see me, and I couldn't see her. This is in the beginning. And I'm just, at this point, you kind of panic because you're like, okay, and they're not letting people see me. And they came in with this outbreak, Luke, I am your father kind of thing, and I'm like, what am I?
Hazmat suits.
Yes,
okay.
for real, a hazmat suit. And so, but anyway, so they wouldn't let me see her. And so I'm upset because she's made the trip. And then later on, I'm in another room and my cousin Leah comes to see me. And all I could do was sleep and twitch because they had me on these high dose meds. And I literally would jump and and freaking her out. So I mean there were other people, I don't want to leave them out. There were other people that did come, and people that called and checked on me and stuff. So anyway, fast forward back. And so I remember at one point, we've gotten over the I'm gonna die because one of my the endoscopy guy who does the patches on my stomach, he had taken me in, and I'm talking, we're on high doses of Ativan and this and that because I would have panic attacks to do these endoscopies. And so he comes in, and he's like, I have a good feeling about this, which he said every time. And I'm like, tell me another lie, dude.
Quit saying that and let's just go.
Let's just do it. Because I'm like, at this point, I live here. Can you forward my mail? That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thanks. So anyway, we go in, and he does a patch that he does on hearts.
Okay.
Well, not he, but that people
Right.
use for hearts or
Yes.
whatever. So he does this patch on my stomach. I was going to bring that picture. I didn't know if it was allowed, but just because I think it's cooler
allowed.
and
Yeah.
crazy. But anyway, so he does a patch like that. And he's like, this is the one, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Didn't think anything of
Yes.
it. We go back. The patch worked.
Oh.
I passed the swallow test. And I was like, yay, I don't
For
have
the
to drink
first
this
time
stuff
in
for
how
the
many
first
months?
time in several months. And I'm like, I don't want to drink any more dish soap. And oh my goodness, I may be able to see my baby boy. And I'm
Right.
just feeling overwhelmed. And he comes in, there's a butt. I don't remember what the butt was, but I remember sinking back down. And I'm like, I'm going to be stuck here. And then Ree comes in and she says, I'm going home on April 19th. Do you want to come with me or do you want to stay here or something along those lines,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if they let me go. She's like, there is no let me go. We are going.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, they wanted me to sit up in the chair for like 3 hours a day.
Sure.
I didn't want to. It hurt. I mean, it hurt a lot. Who would think? I'm laying in a bed, but I'm
know.
propped. I'm sitting. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
They're like, how are you going to sit on an airplane?
The airplane.
I was like, I'm going to sit just fine. And I'm like, whatever. And so Ree would have to be the one to kind of, whatever. And so I'd sit in the chair. I did it begrudgingly in the
Yeah.
beginning, but
Yeah.
I did it. And I'd sit there, but I'm sitting there. You have no idea. But I say this again. God kept me blissfully oblivious because you don't understand 24 hours in a bed
For months.
for months. And I had trouble sleeping at
Yeah.
night, and so I would
Yes.
sleep it off and on. And then when they weaned me off the meds, I had trouble sleeping. And so it's just, Lord, let there be something on TV.
Yeah.
Just please let there be something
Yeah.
on TV. So then when I'm sitting up in the chair, I'm playing on my phone and I would get on Facebook, but it would hurt my heart
Sure.
because I'm seeing people live life
Yeah.
and they're my people. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk to them. I want to,
Yes.
I'm a
Well,
toucher.
You want to be living your
Yes.
life with them.
I
Yeah.
want to be able to, I want to touch them. I want to feel their presence. I want to see them. And so I would just go to the reels, and watch. And bear in mind, okay, I didn't mention this. Bear in mind, for 8 months,
Yeah.
I did not eat or drink
Right.
because I couldn't,
Except for the test.
except for the test. Now, there were 2 periods. Once in the beginning, they had me doing sips of water. And the little pill cups that they bring you? You can have one of those every 30 seconds or every 15 seconds or something like that. I was like, the devil is a lie. As soon as they'd walk
Yes.
out, I'm like,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Right.
Do what they say.
No, do what they say.
Yeah, that was bad because guess what? Christy popped the hole.
Okay.
So then
Yeah.
from that point on, I think it was like 6 months, and then they let me try solid food.
Okay.
And I couldn't get it down.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, okay, whatever. So for this 8 months, I've had all I want is a drink of water.
Yes.
I hate water.
Literally.
And all I want is, please, Lord, I just want a drink of water.
Mm-hmm.
So then I get to a point, it wasn't the full 8 months, but you got to roll with me.
Yeah.
Because then it was like the last month that they were like, okay, we're going to start you on water
Yeah.
and so forth and so on. And so
Mm-hmm.
they did. But all this time, so anyway, I tell you that to tell you this. So while I'm sitting in the chair, I'm watching the reels, and I have always been a Food Network person.
Right.
And so what's my comfort?
Yeah.
Food Network,
Food,
right?
yeah.
So I watch these food reels, and I'm like, am I ever going to be able to eat again?
Mm-hmm.
Because, that was something else. I had a feeding tube.
Yeah.
And there was a high possibility, which I came home with a feeding tube,
Yes.
but there was a high possibility that was for the rest of
Forever.
my life.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, will I ever be, food has always been, hence the reason I had the surgery,
Well, it's just you don't realize how many things.
are surrounding food.
Yes. And
Yes.
a joy that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we can have addictions, but
Yes.
also food is necessary
Yes.
and good.
Yes.
So-
and tasty. And I
Yeah.
love to cook.
Yeah.
And I love to bake. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
here I am. And so I'm like, that's another reason I'm salty about having to sit in this chair.
Sure.
Because, what am I watching? Everybody else living life.
Yeah.
And what am I doing? I'm literally sitting in a chair. And so I would have to, my posture is so bad now because I would have to lean down to get pressure because I have no padding on my butt.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
Yeah.
Like a lot. And so I would sit up and I would have to, and I'd sit up and I'd have to. So, and I apologize, Ree, if you're watching this, but I lied and said that I got the 3 hours in so they would leave me alone.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Sure.
I couldn't. And so they had, and at one point they had me walking around an atrium. There was an atrium. So they had me walking around the atrium, and there was one point, there was one nurse, his name was Christian, and he was an awesome guy. And we talked about God and stuff. We talked about Victory Life,
Yeah.
actually.
How
and
funny.
there was a pastor, no, maybe it wasn't Victory Life. Anyway, there was a church here in Oklahoma that he really wanted to see, and so he and his fiance were going to be able to come to Oklahoma, and I just prayed and prayed and prayed, that they would be able to, because he would talk to me about that, and he was just uplifting. I remember wanting to talk to him so badly that we did 18 laps one night.
Too funny.
18 laps.
Yes.
And he would talk to me. It wasn't like, good grief, woman, would you go lay down?
He was actually talking
to me. And so, and a lot of the nurses would talk to me, don't get me wrong, but there were some that you could tell it was like, okay, you're done. Let's go lay down. They weren't rude about it, but
they just had a job.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but then towards the end, now bear in mind, I'd gotten up to 18 laps.
Yeah.
And there towards the end, I lost all energy. I lost all, it was like I had no jelly legs, and I could only make 2 laps.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm going home. I need this strength. And I just sank. So anyway, God brought me through that again, So fast forward to April 19th.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, it's really going to happen. Because I didn't believe it.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I didn't
cannot
believe
imagine your mental.
They're putting me in a chair, and I'm like, it's not going to happen. And so they wheel me down, and bear in mind, in 8 months, I've had 3 days outside.
Yeah.
And it was an hour, 30 minutes, and 20 minutes, the 3 times that I went outside.
Yes.
So I walk out, and I smell the air, and I'm just like,
yes.
Just breathe it in. Bear in mind, I really resemble the Crypt Keeper at this point because my hair is scraggly. It has dyed.
Well, you have just,
I have.
You've endured.
Yes. And so I don't look like me. I didn't sound like me anymore. And it wasn't until I got in Eric's car and he shut the door that I realized we're really leaving. And I got really nervous until he started the car and backed up because it was like, they're letting me go.
Yeah. Like, what's going to happen now?
Are we going to get in a wreck on the way to the airport? Right.
This
is real. And so I just kind of broke down because I'm like, I'm going.
Yes.
So then we get to the airport, and we get in the airport, and it's like, we're really going to fly.
One step closer.
Then we get on the plane, and I'm like, this is real. And so I'm just sitting there like, Okay, there was a family behind us. There was a man and a woman, and they had a mentally disabled child. And so you could tell, because she was kind of making noises and stuff, and you could tell she was nervous about flying. And I'm sitting here in my mind praying for this girl because I was like, do not fall apart, Christy, because
you don't want to scare her.
If she sees you, yes, she'll, it may scare her. And so I'm really trying hard to hold it in. And I remember just kind of vibrating in my seat, because I'm like, I'm really leaving. The plane takes off, and I'm like, and just this relief waves over me.
Oh, yeah.
So then the white plane ride is good. I'm shifting, and I'm twitching, and I'm moving, and they told me because of my blood sugar, they're like, just drink some juice on the plane. So I was like, okay, all I've had is water. You better believe that
I'm ready to have some juice.
So she comes along. I'm kind of dizzy, so I'm pardon me if I slow down, but they come around to ask us if we want something to drink or everything, and I was like, okay, what do you have? What do you have? What do you have? I was like, if they have grape juice, I'm so getting grape juice. I know it's going to run my sugar up, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And so they were like, well, we have cran apple or whatever. And I was like, cranberry, that'll work. I want cranberry. I'm like a heroin addict over here. Like,
I cannot imagine. And that's the first time?
That's the first time. Well, not the first time. It's the first time I've had flavor because I've had.
But I'm like, did they not think you should test that in the hospital? It's giving me anxiety, and I know you're fine now. Don't drink anything on the plane.
And I know, and I did not think about anything else except for them saying maybe you should have something on the plane so your sugar doesn't drop. And so I sucked down that cranberry juice like it was, like I was an alcoholic getting gin. And it was. And then 4 seconds later, I was like, good idea. That was not a good idea at all. And I kind of looked at Ree. I'm like, cranberry juice was a bad idea. And she's like, okay, you're okay. It's all right. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna die. And so then I just kind of sat there, and I was like, okay, she thinks I'm okay, so I should be okay. I'm gonna be okay. Oh
yes.
And it just hurt. Well, I'm not thinking, after all these surgeries, my stomach is this big.
Right.
And I drank that much cranberry juice, and I'm like,
oh my goodness,
twitching.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then 4 hours later, we land, and I'm like, I'm in America again,
Yes, you were like,
and so I'm just kind of, And I'm panicking because, bear in mind, they had to wheel me onto the plane in a wheelchair,
Sure.
wheel me off the plane in a wheelchair.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm thinking there's going to be people waiting there to get me in a wheelchair. And I've got to go to the bathroom. A sensation, bear in mind, while I was in the hospital.
Sure, that you probably
wasn't
lost.
a whole lot. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I always had to have a nurse with me and all this.
Yes.
I'm going to get to go by myself. And so I'm like, how do I get to it? Everybody's going to jump up and want to get off. And so Reeleen's there. I told her I'm kind of panicking, but I'm trying to play it cool, because I don't want to seem like a panicked Polly. And so she leans over to the gentleman that's sitting next to her, which we have no idea who this is. And she's like, she really needs to go to the restroom before we land. Do you mind? And he's absolutely not, you know. And so I don't remember if he stood up and kind of stopped the people or if Ree stood up, but all I remember is I kind of, and I'm unsteady on my feet, and so I'm kind of shimmying to get to the bathroom, and then I'm literally in a water closet. Now, I still have a fat brain, so I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to be able to turn around in this thing, and I think that was the first time I truly realized I shrank. Shrank. And so I look at myself in the mirror, which I had done at the hospital. But I could see more of me, and I was like, where'd I go? Where'd I go?
For sure.
And I don't feel like me, and I don't look like me, and I'm, because I wore a hat, a beanie hat all the time. And so anyway, okay, so past that, we get off the plane without whatever, and I'm nervous because I'm like, I get to be with family again, and I get to be, because I mean, I had Ree, but there's going to be more of them.
No, but your son and
yes, and I mean, so we go to where we're going to meet, and I remember Ree talking to Jim, and I knew I couldn't walk, and so she had to wheel me in the thing, and it was one of those you had to push the button to walk, and she didn't know if she let go it would stop,
keep going.
And she was pushing me, and she let go at one point to answer the phone or something. I'm like, she's like, I'm sorry, and it was okay, but she answers the phone, and I listen, it's Jim, and we're trying to make sure, and so it was just kind of hectic because it was all excited, and at this point there's so much energy because we just want to get there, and all this, and so we get there, and I lay eyes on Jim and Les, and I remember Jim's face, and you could just see the love in that man's face for both of us.
This is your uncle.
This is my uncle, yes, for both of us, because we've never been close, but I know that man loves me and cares about me, and he's missed his wife, and she has sacrificed this time with him, and so, you could just see the love all over his face, and I just bawled. I'm trying not to be open, but I am such an ugly crier, but I don't. And, and Les, I'm not real close to Les, but boy, I love that man so much at that point. I love him anyway, he's family. But it's one of those that it's like, you guys are the most handsome human beings I have seen. I appreciate you so much. And so, then it's a race. We got to get this because we got to get out of here, and all this. Well, they had stopped and got me some insurance and all of this stuff, and I needed to get some, and so and at this point I know Rhea's kind of frantic because we've got to get this stuff, and let's get in the car. And then, so they wheel me, and we're sitting outside, and the air was so different sitting outside. And it was just painful to sit there because this chair had no padding in it whatsoever. It's just a transport chair.
And your body is just...
And my body is like, let's lay down. But I didn't care. I just said... Just breathing, and all you can smell is exhaust and cigarette
all the
smoke.
Airport smells.
Yes, and at one point somebody had some horrible gas, and I was like, "That is the sweetest smelling toot I have ever smelled in my life," and it didn't bother me.
Right,
you
were just like,
I was just like so wonderful because there was people, there were real people, and they're all around me, and I'm alive to see them. So anyway, I feel like I'm talking too much, but so. We get in the car finally, and it took forever, because they had to walk, and then we get in the car and we're coming home. And I remember when we're coming into Durant, I was like, I know this place.
I am getting home.
I'm getting close. I'm getting butterflies in my stomach, and and at this point, I am just exhausted. I'm just exhausted, but I'm so excited, And we come into town, and there's a Starbucks. There was not a Starbucks when I left.
That's the
truth.
It's
not. It wasn't done.
Open then,
it wasn't done. But I was like, there's a building there where there wasn't before, and all this. I was like, it was so cool, and so we're coming in and all that. I remember crying when I saw Tushka because I was like, we're so close. We're so close. And so then, it was bittersweet because then when we turned at McDonald's to go to my aunt's house, I knew. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
We're not going home yet.
Right.
Because they agreed to let me go on home if I had 24-hour care. And Rhea's retired, so she could stay with me and be with me and stuff. And so we went out there. Now, I love that she had me.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah.
I loved to be in her house and in her company. But I also wanted
you wanted
my
to be
own
home.
bed and to feel normal and all that mess. And so, you know, I remember my sister came out. My sister's my very best friend.
Mm-hmm.
My very best friend.
Yes.
And I remember my sister came out, and the look on her face, you know, I know
Mm-hmm.
I don't look like me anymore. She and my mother came in, and of course my son, and he hugged me, and I hugged him, and that was the most wonderful hug. And then holding on to my sister, just like she's really here, and I had a hold of her clothes, and I'm just like, she's really here, and just the look on her face, like,
Yeah.
it's indescribable. And so, you know, we sat and visited for a little bit, and I was sinking so bad, but I was like, don't leave.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
I know.
leave.
At that point.
It was the same thing in the hospital, talking to people on the phone. I can't talk, had a tube down my throat. It hurts so bad. Don't stop talking. It felt this, it was the same feeling. And so, but they ended up leaving, you know, and everything. And so I was trying to get stronger. And I remember I got to add a little bit of solid food here and there. And it was great and all of this. And it was like I just still was kind of hollow. And I wasn't me. I still was not me. And so, you know, Ree would help me, you know, she'd be like, you know, you need to walk or whatever, or have you eaten some beans? Or, because I remember the doctor saying you need to eat smashed beans and concentrate on your protein. And so I would have the shakes. Well, it was a couple of weeks into it, and I was having my shakes, and they started making me sick. And then it was like I didn't want to move. So all I could do was stay rolled up in that chair. Well, and I'm not a Western fan. I'm sorry, I'm admitting it now. I'm not a Western fan, but they would watch Gunsmoke and stuff like that, and I would just feel lost. Because I'm just not, you know. And so I would lay there inside my head. And that's not a safe place to be when you have PTSD, ADHD, you know. That's not a good place. And Ree would ask me sometimes, what are you thinking about? Nothing. Because I couldn't describe it, even if I wanted to. And so, anyway, so we go through all that, and then I move home. And I'm thinking, now things are going to be normal. It's not. It's not. I was thankful to be with my sister every day.
Sure.
But all I could do was lay on that couch. I tried doing physical therapy, and it hurt so bad. I'm a grade A weenie. And it hurt so bad that I quit. Because that's what I do. And I shouldn't have, but I did. But I continued to get my strength up. I just knew that Larry and Debbie didn't need me at work anymore, so I'm going to have to find a new job that will handle me. And because I remember Mary saying, you know, Larry wants to talk to you, not come back. Larry said, Mary wants to talk to you. And I'm like, y'all don't need me anymore, do you? And she's like, yes, we do. You know, you need to come and talk to Larry. So I remember going out to see Larry, and Larry's like, coffee is my thing. And Larry's like, you want me to fix you a cup of coffee? And I'm like, literally half a cup because I can't drink it.
That's all I can do.
And so he comes in, and at this point I can barely get around. I'm not getting around real good. And so I'm in there talking to him, and I'm trying to act strong because I want to come back. And he's like, I want you to come back, but I want you to come back slow.
Right.
If you want to come back at 9 o'clock in the morning and work until noon, I want you to tell me I'm tired. I got to go home. He said, I want you to do that. I want you to do that for as long as you need to. Now, I ask you, besides Donna Rhonda Milam, saying, good grief, Donna Rhonda saying, I'm so sorry, besides
maiden
them.
names. It's okay.
Well, exactly. Who would say, or Ryan Ritter, because I worked for you, you know, who would say, we've held this job for you for 8 months.
Right.
We want you, but we want you healthy.
Yeah.
You know, who else would say that after waiting 8 months?
Right.
9, actually. 9 months.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started working again, and I started getting the groove, but I'm still not me. I'm still not me. I'm just now. I've been out of the hospital since April 19th. I'm just now getting the me back. I'm just now. I feel like I've started doing TikToks, which I've done too. I say started doing TikToks.
You're a TikTok star. TikTok famous.
So I want to be TikTok famous for people to help me, or for me to help people, because God made me crazy for a reason, and so I would like to share that with others. And I feel like the 2 TikToks that I've done misrepresent me because I was so subdued. It was almost like, you know.
Well, you were telling your story though.
I'm trying to tell my story, and I'm like, you got to understand, people. You're going to feel nuts after a trauma. You're going to feel nuts after Sunday morning. It does not matter. Embrace the nuts and realize that God loves you anyway, but share with people. Don't act like you're all 100% fine. Show your nuts. And that sounded so bad. I'm so sorry. But I mean, it's like, you know, we come from back in the day, you don't air your dirty laundry on the front porch. Sister, my undies are hanging out, because if you don't tell people that, they're going to think, well, I can never be like that.
Right.
I could never be like that. Girl, there's cracks in my eggshell.
Yeah.
And everybody has that. And if there's some way, God had to make me this way for a reason. So there's other people I'm hoping that will see my story and be like, oh, she understands.
There's hope.
And I don't know how TikTok works. I will say that right now. But if somebody, even if it's just one person that says, sister, listen.
Yeah.
I need, will you pray for me?
Yeah.
Or will you tell me something? I'll tell you, and I'll tell you honest. Don't ask me a question you don't want an honest answer to.
Yeah.
Because, I have no filter. I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. I'm going to do my best to lead you God's direction, because I'm not always good at that. And I'm trying to find my feet back with God too, because God loved me so well. God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit were with me through that whole thing, because I was blissfully oblivious to the fact that I almost died, not just once, several times. There were several emergency surgeries. I don't remember it. There was several times in ICU. I don't remember it. I mean, I remember vaguely things happening. I don't remember the depth. I mean, they cut me from stem to stern. The scars that I have, I'm oblivious.
Well, it was, I can't imagine living it, because just being on this side of it, watching from the outside, just as your friend, it was terrifying. And you're thinking, your sister is here, also terrified. You've just lost your dad. Your child is, I cannot imagine, because it was just...
And I think I still have that part blocked.
So much. Well, I feel like the Lord gives us grace, and He will reveal things to you and let things come up at a certain time. And you've referenced a couple of things that I think are crucial for people, because whether it be a health scare like this, and when I say health scare, this is a significant, a year-long trauma. Like it is unbelievable. And literally your body is in fight or flight for the whole 9 months. There was not ever, and they were never saying you're in the clear, even when you're coming home. Because here we knew Lisa was, kind of keeping everybody updated, and you're just thinking, we're just not staying here anymore. It's not that they've said, oh, you're great, you're recovered, you're rehabilitated.
100%.
It's like,
it's over.
Okay, we're done. So good luck. And that is a lot. And the Lord did, take care of you. But I lost track, as we've mentioned, happens.
It's okay.
But I feel like when you're looking back just from the outside, you can see that the Lord Himself was with you. He also used people. He's used a therapist that you're just, how long have you been seeing a therapist? Some months.
Some months, yeah.
Like, and just that will take time.
Yeah, and the thing is, part of it, which I learned through therapy, is I felt guilty for not grieving my dad properly.
Sure.
And Christi pointed out, she said, what if you didn't grieve him because he was there with you? What if God allowed that?
Yeah. Well, your body can only do one thing at a time.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't realize I was in survival mode. So.
Well, I feel like I'm older than you, but not that
I was
far.
like, by what, 8.5 minutes?
By 4. By 4 long. No, but it's kind of a joke on Instagram and TikTok and all the socials about Gen X being, they're tough. They basically raised themselves. We were a generation of latchkey kids, and your parents literally let you out at the skating rink on Friday night with $20 and said, I'll pick you up at midnight. My parents did not. Yours probably did not either.
No, they did not.
We were very taught to be self-sufficient. That was applauded. And in American culture, let's face it, pick yourself up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps is applauded. I feel like we've come a little further than that now. Seeing a therapist would have been taboo.
Oh, no.
Admitting any weakness or failure or fear or depression or anxiety would have just, that would so taboo. It's laughable now because you're like, I can't hardly remember it being like that because it's so talked about openly now, as it should be. But when you're raised in that and then come through something like that, you figure out real quick, I can't pull myself up by my bootstraps. And I am in a very mentally dark place, physically dark place, emotionally dark place, spiritually somewhat, because you're not able to feed your soul the good things you're used to. And I think you figure out now, and as you continue to heal, because literally you're still at the very beginning of the healing, God has got so much more for you, and he's not in a hurry.
Yeah.
And
I need to not be in a hurry.
And sometimes we just have to say, it's going to take me a minute, a lot of minutes, because that was a lot.
A lot. For a long time.
Yeah, for an extended amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to go back and you've talked about some of the things you've overcome, but what would you say, what would you go back and tell somebody in your position now? And I don't even know if you've been out of that long enough to be able to reflect back, but if you were going to go back and talk to younger Christi or Christi pre-surgery, what would you want her to know?
I want to go all the way back to high school Christi.
Yeah.
Knowing
what would
what
you
I know.
tell her?
And I would tell her, listen, stop worrying about boys and homework and start focusing on God, because later on, when you need him, you're not going to know how to pray. You're not going to know scripture to do what you need to do, because I was so focused on other things. I was in church, so I'm good. I'm covered. I was president of the youth council at one point. I'm good. I'm covered. No, Chris, go back. Go back. Focus on God, because all of this stuff that you're going to have to overcome, you could have done so much better if you'd kept your head in the Bible. So, and then I would like to fast forward to pre-surgery Christi and be like, okay, listen, you're okay how you are. Doesn't matter how the world perceives you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how others perceive you, because you got to be okay with that before you have this surgery. Because I still have the fat brain, and I'm still thinking I don't deserve. First of all, I'm a child of the King.
Yes.
I deserve.
Yeah. It's
still
not
don't-
about deserving.
No.
You're worthy because he made you.
Because
Yeah.
I'm covered under grace.
Yeah,
But
you are.
you can't tell me
Yeah.
that. I still don't believe it, but
Yeah.
I know it. So, I mean, but I would like to convey, I didn't understand grace until after all of this. And I'm like, I don't deserve that, Lord, but I know it was you and all this. It's grace.
Yeah.
Embrace the grace.
Yes.
Embrace
Yeah.
it. And just, I wish I could explain to myself in high school that the depression and stuff that I was going through, it's not something you have to hide in a dark closet.
Right.
Talk to your friends about it.
Yeah.
Even though they don't understand it. I mean, like, I know that
Yeah.
she may kill me, but I know my sister was going through anxiety, but we did not know that's what it was.
Yeah.
And you just didn't talk about stuff like that. Stuff like that, ADHD back then, you were just a brat, or you were just,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Had
and we
behavior
just
problems. Yeah.
didn't know. But had we known it was okay to talk to each other, had we known, it may not have been so severe.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like sharing our vulnerabilities and I will just call them issues, whatever your struggles, anything. I feel like, again, in this season of the world, that is more acceptable to talk about. And you don't know that when you're a teenager, and you don't know teenager, midlifer, pick your spot. Everyone deals with something. May not be exactly the same, but bringing that out into the light and sharing it. And, we read in scripture about carrying one another's burdens, bear one another's burdens, cast your cares on Jesus.
Yes.
He will care for you. A lot of that is, I'm going to admit and share the things that I don't have together and that I need help with. And just the power of speaking that out takes a lot of the power away from the enemy. I think it breaks a lot of chains. Confession.
It does.
And not that you have to do that with everyone, because there are definitely safe places and unsafe places, but finding your community and sharing that's where it's at.
That's where I want to push that with teenagers, because I remember, and I don't know if you do too, I mean, think back. When you're a teenager, a lot of the Bible wasn't meant for me right then. That's
Right,
for my
yeah.
future self.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that now. That's for later. So I'm struggling with this now. I can't go to God with this. And so it's like, I did have my tight-knit group of friends.
Sure.
But there's still things you don't share with a tight-knit group. And the one thing that I can say to any teenagers that would listen to this is, if you have that ADHD or overactive imagination, or you're thinking about things you shouldn't think about, whether that be suicide or premarital sex or whatever it happens to be, share it with somebody. And if you think they're going to judge you, it's worth the risk, because your friends are not going to judge you. Your friends are not going to judge you, and you need that outlet. For one, I encourage you to pray. I should have said that first. I encourage you to pray.
Yeah.
but then find that human outlet as well, because God gave you friends.
Yes, he put us around each other for a
Yes,
reason.
for that. And if not, find a quirky stranger. I'll be on TikTok, and I will not judge you. I am not
any
judging
quirky stranger.
No, well, not any quirky stranger, just the ones that profess, me. Come see me, doggone it.
Christi, that's right.
But I mean, find the quirky one in your church.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But don't pull yourself into a shell and live there because you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
I remember somebody talking about their grandmother or their grandma sitting on the porch in a rocking chair with her shawl over her legs and a corncob pipe and a bleach bottle on her head. Yes. And Granny wore her crazy out in public, and I'm like, be that bold.
Yes. Yeah.
Not everybody is. My son is not going to be that bold. Yeah. He's not. But through seeing me, I hope he will talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be me.
Just finding a safe place to share.
Yes, find that safe place.
And be the safe place for somebody else.
Yes, that's the other side.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be crazy to do that.
Right.
Even if you just sit there like a deer in headlights and let them talk to you. Let them talk to you.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's lots of times, I've been trying to find ways to serve because I'm not the greatest servant and I'm trying to be a better servant.
Yes, you are. But yeah.
And I'm like, I may not be able to say much, but I can listen to you. I may not. I may not be able to. That's
the biggest thing you can do for somebody.
But I can listen to you. And I'm learning, like, through Dad's death. Don't stop talking about him, please.
Right.
And I used to do that. You don't talk about the person that passed away. Talk about him, please.
Yeah.
Tell me how he made you smile. Tell me how he made you mad. I don't care. Talk about him, please.
Yeah.
So I'm learning, and I'm hoping somebody will learn through this. Somebody who's thinking, I really would like to say something so significant to someone who's lost somebody. Walk up to him and say, there's no words, so I'm not going to say any. I love you, and just hug them bigger than Dallas, and just let them know you're there. Sometimes they're not big huggers. Don't hug them long.
Right.
Sometimes they are big huggers, and you know that. Hug them till they let go. But you hug them and just let them know you're there, and don't try to say they're in a better place.
No, yeah.
Everything is going to be fine. This will be over in 18 minutes.
Yes.
Don't. Just say.
Hold all that back. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And, people try to encourage me now. I prayed for you while you were in the hospital, and I've become so awkward. I know people were praying for me. I felt every bit of it.
Yeah,
I did. Too. I felt it. I knew it. I would not have been blissfully oblivious if there weren't my sweet community that I live in. People I don't really know that well. Yeah. Praying over me.
You were covered.
I was well covered. Well covered. Yeah. And I'm so awkward now because there are not words big enough to say thank you. Yeah. People will come to me, like I'm in church now, back to church, and people will still come to me and say, I pray for you. It's so good to see you. It's so good to see you. And I can't say to them how much I appreciate them saying that because I've become so awkward. So I'm like, it's good to be seen. What is that?
It is good to be seen.
I'm so thankful. And I'm like, thank you very much. And I'm like, that's not me. And I don't know how to say that. So if you've ever said to me, I prayed for you and I gave you an awkward answer, I so apologize. I appreciate you with all the love in my heart. And I love you. And that's something I didn't have love for everybody before. And I'm trying to love everybody. And the people who say that to me, I genuinely love them.
Yeah.
I do.
You are. Well, you're just a living testimony of God's grace and his strength and what he can do even when you're an imperfect person like me, because I am not perfect. Well, I am not perfect. I have never been perfect. I'm not a perfect Christian. I'm trying to be a good Christian. Yeah. I slide and fall down all the time. I say words I shouldn't say, which I immediately regret and, pray for forgiveness. And there's so much in there. So if you're struggling as a teenager, as an adult or whatever, you're struggling and you're like, I can't give a testimony because I said bad words yesterday. I can't give a testimony because I'm living with my boyfriend and we're having premarital sex. I can't give my testimony. Bull. God will work on you. Yeah, it doesn't matter. One step at a time.
Yeah, I can't go to church because I'm going for the wrong reasons. Baloney. Yeah. Go. God will handle you.
That's right.
Pray. Yeah. Do, and then when you get convicted and do what you need to do what you need to do.
Yeah. He's patient.
He's patient. Do not. You can't. Mark Lowry said once, did it ever occur to you that nothing ever occurred to God? Like it didn't shock him when your boyfriend moved in with you?
Yeah.
Just pray to him. He knows anyway.
He does know
anyway. You're not revealing some big secret. God be like, oh, you did.
That's right. Yeah.
So, embrace it. And God is always the answer. Now, there's lots of times that I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm giving this to you. This is yours. but I'm going to handle it. So,
Yeah.
and just, it's okay. Keep coming back. Put it back down.
Yes.
Pick it up. Put it back down.
Yeah.
But just come back.
Yeah.
If you get anything out of this, because I know I'm talking gibberish at this point, that if you get anything out of this, God is always the answer.
He is.
And I remember places in my life where I'm like, if one more person tells me to pray,
I know.
I'm going to throat
slap
punch them.
Yep.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
And, if you come talk to me with a problem or whatever, and you don't want to hear that God mess, because I've heard people say that, for one, you're going to get it anyway, but I'm not going to preach you down.
Right.
I'm not going to, hold
the
your head in the
news.
Bible.
The gospel is good news.
I
mean,
mean,
his kindness is what leads us to repentance.
Yes. But I mean, the Bible is not all thee, thy, and thou, and we stand as such. You know, we can give you the Bible in good doses because it is what? The good news. So, I mean, but if you need somebody to sit and jabber, or you need to sit and jabber, I promise I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Come see me. Christi Copeland on Facebook. I don't know the Twitter, or not.
TikTok.
Don't know the TikTok thing,
We're
but
gonna
I
get
think
you
it's
the
under
TikTok,
Chris Copeland.
and it'll
Christi
be in the show
Copeland.
description.
And
That's
in some places, I'm under Christi Eastwood still.
Yes.
That's, but I felt like I want to have the same last name as my son.
Yeah.
But I felt like to come back to the me that was me, I need to be Christi Copeland.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to slide against Ed on that. I don't mean to slide against
that's
my
just
life
who
with
you
him
are.
on that. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, find me, look me up, hunt me down. I'll give you my telephone number. I'm not going to do it here because there are
we are not.
two
We're not posting the
hospitals
phone
that are
number.
hunting me down for billions of dollars.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
how to handle that part, so we'll roll with that when it happens.
One day at a time. One day at a time.
So,
Well, thank you, Christi.
You're welcome.
It's an honor to hear your story firsthand, because I know a lot of us have heard bits and pieces and we watched, but to hear it from the proverbial horse's mouth is a very good thing. We are so thankful that you are here and shining your light, and honestly, the best is yet to come. I know you're just getting started, but I appreciate you sharing it here and wish you nothing but all of God's best for you. And I can't wait to watch what he does.
I can't either. I would like to say one more thing, and I promise I'll shut up.
No, you're good.
But I know I was terrified of giving my testimony because bits and pieces come back to me as they're revealed.
Sure.
And I know this is what bothers me. I know that the next time I give my testimony, it's not going to be the same as I just gave it.
Yeah.
And I'm just terrified that somebody's going to pick it apart and say, but please understand, these things come back to me as God wants them to come back to me, because I was blissfully oblivious. So I want to be a work for the Lord and give God all the glory. None of this is on me. Absolutely none of it. I did not do this. God did. This is 100%.
And he
God
made
did
you a
this.
fighter.
He made me a fighter.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to convey that, because I'm like, I don't want to give my testimony again into some other place, because God has said, okay, speak.
Yeah.
And then somebody say, well, that's not what you said last time. Be like, I'm giving you the best of my recollection.
No, you're good. I don't think anyone's going to nitpick your story. We get to have our own stories and share them accordingly, and God is going to use whatever you share wherever you share it. But thank you, and
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome anytime. Can't wait to see what he uses you as.
Oh yeah. If there's anything big, we'll be reporting live
That's
from
right.
our studios.
Reporting live. Exactly. We'll be back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, please like, follow, and hit subscribe to keep up with all future episodes. We'd also love for you to leave us a 5-star review. That wraps it up for today's Marcy in the Middle. And remember, whatever you're in the middle of, you're not alone. We'll see you next time.